All right, today we are digging into a seriously forgotten chapter of human history. We're talking about a civilization that built some of Europe's very first cities, thrived for thousands of years, and then, poof, just completely disappeared. So let's get into the incredible mystery of the Cucuteni Trypillia culture.
So let me just ask you a question. When you think of the world's first cities, where does your mind go? I'm guessing it's probably the Fertile Crescent, right? Mesopotamia, maybe ancient Egypt. Well, okay, this is where the story gets really interesting. Just take a look at this timeline. For a long time, the largest settlements in the ancient world were not in Mesopotamia. Nope, they were right here in Europe, and they predate the famous Sumerian cities by over 500 years.
So, who exactly were these mysterious city builders who came along way, way before the pharaohs even started thinking about pyramids? They're known as the Cucuteni Trypillia Culture. And for over 2,000 years, we're talking deep in the Neolithic, the late Stone Age, they absolutely flourished across what is now modern-day Romania, Ukraine, and Moldova. And their influence was just immense. I mean, at its peak, this culture covered a staggering 350,000 square kilometers. Just to give you a sense of scale, that's an area bigger than modern-day Italy. It's huge. But their most incredible achievement wasn't even the size of their territory. It was the sheer, mind-boggling scale of their settlements. Yeah, these were not just a few scattered villages. The Cucuteni Trypillia people built massive, highly organized, and densely packed settlements that a lot of archaeologists are now calling the first true cities on the entire Eurasian continent. And get this, the population. At their height, a single one of these megasites might have been home to 46,000 people. I mean, think about that. A city that large, over 6,000 years ago. It's just staggering. And to really put that in perspective, a typical megasite, one called Talyanki, completely dwarfed the average towns in Mesopotamia and Egypt at the time. It wasn't even close. For a while, these were the largest urban centers on the entire planet. But they weren't just building big. These people were absolute masters of innovation. So let's take a look at some of the incredible technology they came up with. The secret to their unbelievable art was their kiln technology. Now, these were just simple fire pits. We're talking advanced, two-chambered kilns that could reach these scorching hot temperatures, which gave them amazing control over the whole firing process. And all that control allowed them to create this, some of the most stunningly complex pottery of the entire ancient world. They're famous for these almost hypnotic, swirling designs that have really become the hallmark of their culture. But as amazing as their pottery was, it might not have been their most important invention. A much, much more tantalizing question remains. Archaeologists have actually found these incredible little miniature clay models of wheeled carts, and they date all the way back to the 5th millennium BC. That is hundreds of years before the first evidence of wheels pops up in Mesopotamia. Now, it's still debated, but it seriously suggests they might have invented the wheel, which would completely rewrite a key chapter of human history. Okay, so let's dive into the really mysterious side of this culture. Because for all their incredible innovations, their rituals were, frankly, bizarre and truly enigmatic. This is one of the biggest puzzles they left behind for us. After building these massive, complex cities, why on earth would they intentionally and systematically burn them all to the ground? And this wasn't some one-off event. It was a ritual cycle. Every 60 to 80 years, like clockwork, the entire community would set their homes on fire. Then, and this is the incredible part, they would build a whole new settlement right on top of the ashes, perfectly preserving the old layout. Along with this whole ritual burning thing, we find another mystery. Tens of thousands of these female clay figurines. They're found everywhere, which suggests a really rich spiritual life, maybe centered on female goddesses or ancestors. But their exact purpose? Well, it's still totally up for debate. Which brings us to the ultimate enigma, the biggest mystery of all, their sudden and total disappearance. I mean, just look at this timeline. This was not a short-lived culture. They flourished for nearly 3,000 years. And then, right around 3000 BC, they just vanish from the archaeological record. Gone. It really does raise the ultimate question. What could possibly make a thriving culture of maybe 1 million people just disappear so completely?
Right now, there are two leading theories. On one hand, you have the Kurgan invasion theory. This suggests that warlike tribes from the eastern steppes, the Yamnaya people, basically swept in and conquered this more peaceful forming society. Then, on the other hand, a different theory points to catastrophic climate change, a sudden, brutal drought that would have completely collapsed their farm-based economy, leaving them incredibly vulnerable. But, regardless of how their story ended, the legacy of the Cucuteni Trypillia is just undeniable. They built Europe's first great cities, they pioneered ceramic technology, and they may have even given us the wheel. They absolutely force us to rethink the entire timeline of human civilization.
And their story leaves us with this final kind of lingering question. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other lost worlds, completely forgotten by history, are still out there, just waiting to be discovered, hidden right beneath our feet?